on December 30th, 1903, at about 3:15 in the afternoon. A fire broke out during a holiday matinee at the Iroquois Theater in downtown Chicago. By the time it was over, about 602 people were dead. The building had been marketed as absolutely fireproof, and many patrons believed it. So how did a brand new Chicago theater, full of families, turn into a deadly trap in minutes? It was a cold Wednesday, the kind that made people hurry along the sidewalks and tuck their hands into their coats. Inside the theater, it felt warm and bright, and the mood was light. The show was Mr. Bluebeard, and the crowd was packed with mothers, children, teachers, and students enjoying the holiday break. You could hear voices settling, programs rustling, and an orchestra preparing like it was any other safe afternoon. The Iroquois itself was part of the attraction. It was glamorous, with marble stairways, gleaming woodwork, and balconies that looked elegant and modern. It had opened only weeks earlier, and it was meant to impress Chicago. When a building looks that grand, people assume it must also be well-built, well-run, and well-prepared for emergencies. Backstage, the second act needed a night scene, and the crew used powerful arc lights to create the effect. One light began to sputter, and then it sparked. That spark jumped to a curtain, and a small flame appeared high above the stage. From the seats, it didn't look like a crisis at first, and some people even assumed it was part of the performance. Behind the scenes, stagehands tried to fight it with what they had. Small extinguishers and powder were used, but the fire was too high and already spreading. Poles were swung at the burning fabric, and that knocked loose flaming bits that drifted down onto the stage. In seconds, a little problem became a moving one, climbing upward like it had found a path. Above the stage hung painted scenery, large canvas backdrops and flats meant to transform the set quickly. Those materials were dry, light, and dangerously easy to ignite. As flames reached that overhead space, smoke began pouring into the auditorium, and the air inside changed fast. A safety curtain was supposed to seal off the stage, but it failed to come down properly, leaving a gap that let heat and smoke push through. Eddie Foy, one of the show's best-known performers, stepped forward and tried to calm the audience. Later, he wrote that he noticed how many women and children were in the crowd that day. For a brief moment, some patrons hesitated, unsure whether leaving would be worse than staying. But then, a large backstage door was opened, and the airflow changed in a way that made everything more dangerous. That open door fed the fire like a bellows. Cold outside air rushed in, the flames intensified, and a burst of heat and burning gases surged outward into the space people needed to cross. The theater that had felt warm and safe suddenly became loud, confusing, and hard to breathe. Panic wasn't a just fear. It was a practical reaction to a building that was turning against the people inside it. People ran for exits, but the Iroquois had been built with hidden traps. Some doors were covered by heavy drapes, and some exits were hard to spot in a hurry. Gates and barriers between seating levels, used to stop cheaper seat patrons from moving into better sections, created choke points in stairways and corridors. The crowd pressed forward, then slowed, then stopped, because the space ahead could not empty fast enough. Some doors also worked against the crowd. Instead of swinging outward with the push of a shoulder, certain doors opened inward, fighting the pressure of people behind them. In the upper levels, narrow stairs and tight landings funneled hundreds into turns that quickly became jams. There had been no real drills, no clear routine, and no calm, practiced guidance to move thousands the right way at once. When seconds matter, confusion becomes deadly. Outside help was delayed by another simple fact. The theater didn't have a strong system to raise an alarm quickly from inside. Without reliable internal warnings and instant communication, the fire department wasn't there at the earliest moments when an orderly escape might still have been possible. Winter conditions made rescues harder too, especially on fire escapes that were narrow, exposed, and slick with ice. Some people were helped by onlookers and workers with tools and ladders, but many others had nowhere to go. Now the question is why a place like this was allowed to operate at all. Part of the answer is money and timing, because the theater was new and the owners wanted holiday profits. Safety features that looked ugly or disrupted the decor were easier to delay, and crowd control barriers seemed like smart business until an emergency arrived. There were warnings and concerns raised before the disaster, but the public promise of fireproof mattered more than quiet criticisms, right up until it didn't at tea. Looking back, it wasn't one mistake, but a recipe. An overcrowded matinee, flammable scenery above the stage, a safety curtain that couldn't fully protect the audience, and smoke that couldn't vent the way it should. Add confusing exits, locked or blocked routes, and doors that opened the wrong direction. And you have a building that can't empty itself when fear hits. When the spark came, the whole system failed at once. Afterward, Chicago was left with shock, grief, and a harsh lesson written into building design. Investigations happened, but lasting accountability was limited compared to the scale of the loss. The more permanent change came through new rules: outward opening doors, panic bars, clearer exits, alarms, drills, and stricter occupancy limits. And here's the question that still matters today. If you saw a small flame near the stage, would you trust the reassurance to stay calm, or would you start moving toward the exits right away?